We are dealing with a galactic energy field. It's a full halo expanding energy field that goes through the entire galaxy, and when it reaches us, it causes changes in our solar system, it causes activation of our DNA molecule, and that, my friends, is what's causing these 65 million year cycles and 26 million year cycles of species evolution in the fossil record.
Ron Sakeley, Department Chairman, Chemistry, University of California, Berkeley, showed that DNA acts as an antenna for cellular upregulation. The primary function they taught us about what DNA is about. It's a receiver and transmitter of photons, light, and phonon sound. For what? Cellular upregulation, meaning that the water molecules, the pyramid power around the DNA spiral energizing strands are taking in the spiritual energy of love vibrations and then sending it out for manifesting, precipitating in a quantum field, the physical matter of the body.
This is important to understand because another researcher named Vladimir Popanov measured tiny particles of light called photons inside a vacuum tube. The photons were scattered as expected. A sample of DNA was then entered into the vacuum tube and they measured the photons again. They found that the particles of light aligned themselves along the axis of the DNA. Then, as they removed the DNA sample, the photons remained aligned to the same form of the DNA even though no DNA was present. This is what is known as the phantom DNA experiment. Science has now bridged a very important gap between physical and ethereal, or spiritual. Our emotions directly affect the structure of our DNA, which directly shapes the physical world we experience every day. So the messages left by the ancients that we've explained here were more than just prophecies about a one-world government or a new world order. We now understand why the study of the heavenly bodies were so important. The rotation and orbit of all that makes up our universe serves as a clock to map changes and transitions. This helped the ancients understand that the change of the heavenly bodies were a mirror to the changes of all existence. December 21st, 2012 is simply a natural transition from one form of energy to the next, the transcendental evolution of man. This date is what's known as 0 point. Our sun, as well as our planet Earth, is losing its magnetic field as the Earth is slowing in its rotation. All the while, its base resonant frequency, also known as the Schumann cavity resonance, is increasing in accordance with the predictable sequence of the Fibonacci theory. At a cellular level, our bodies respond to an electromagnetic pulse. The ancients called this the sacred circuit. The cells receive this pulse from the brain, which receives its pulse from the heart, which receives its pulse from the earth. This pulse comes from the solar system, which from there comes from the galaxy, which ultimately comes from our entire universe. We literally share a pulse with all of existence. Yet another example of everything being one.
As the body is adjusting with this, the new frequency, the cells are receiving new instructions. This is what is creating these temporary physical things that we're experiencing. The new instructions that our body is being given.
When you feel fear, you are shooting energy out of your field. When you feel love and trust, you are building energy from the cosmos to yourself. This has a direct effect on biological healing. I have an interview that I'm going to air pretty soon with Dr. Glenn Ryan, in which he proved on a microbiological level with molecular genetics that the DNA molecule changes its form based on the energy that you send to it with your consciousness. And when you send the emotion of gratitude, that was the one word that he found was the most important one. Gratitude, more than anything else, heals damaged DNA. You can kill DNA by what's called a heat fix, and it unwinds. And by the sense of loving gratitude, the DNA rewinds and comes back together.
Trust this. You are a great, powerful, mighty, playful, spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose before you came into this room or into this life. And you will be a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being, playfully, with dignity, direction, and purpose when you leave here.
Someone said to me, what would change the world quicker than anyone else? I would say this, anything else, it would change overnight if we did this, because everything would come from it. If we stopped making decisions about our actions based on what is right for us in the moment, and started doing what we knew to be right by conscience and justice, this world would transform. This world has been created as we experience it by billions of people deciding every day, what do I do in the interests of me? Once we start saying, what do I do in the interests of justice, fairness, and my own conscience, actions change, the world changes. And we are in control of that.
I have had it proven to me on multiple levels of redundancy that so many of the negative prophecies that you see on the internet are simply not going to come true.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a pole shift while we are here in the same frequency with the pole shift. There may be a shifting of the earth, but at the time that it happens, at least the vast majority of people will not be at the frequency that the shift happens on. There is a changing of energy frequency. And again, there's just such a complex, multi-layered series of proofs for that. And it is my understanding that these higher forces that are guiding each of our lives, every little synchronicity, is another notch that you can use in your belt to prove to you that there is something out there that loves you, that is guiding your life, that wants you to do well, that wants you to be happy, wants you to succeed. And that connection with your higher self will ensure that you don't end up in the concentration camp, that you don't end up being tortured. Because you listen to that guidance and you are steered by it.
The choices you make right now, I think, are very important. And I feel like one thing I sort of feel is going on right now is that people are making choices. You know, they're kind of determining almost like whether they're going to be able to hang with where human evolution is heading, which is going to have to be a kind of reintegration of this lost knowledge into our modern knowledge. It's, you know, ancient wisdom and modern knowledge.
We have the rarest opportunity to, with our thoughts, hearts, and individual ideals, dawn a new age.
Our true consciousness does not exist in our brains or in our bodies. But this illusion of our individual bodies, along with the misinformation of our true origins, has manifested the idea that we all think independently from one another. With this misunderstanding, it would seem impossible to scientifically explain telepathy, clairvoyance, spiritual mediums, and other phenomena dealing with transferring information between sources without physical means of communication. But when you understand that there is a common spiritual bond between all things in the universe, and that we are all part of one divine intelligence, no phenomena is unexplainable. This simple understanding fills all the holes in modern religions. It explains reincarnation, déjà vu, predictions of the future, and literally every event, occurrence, or anomaly ever experienced. The blank matter within the most basic building blocks of perceivable existence is malleable and molded by intent. This means that consciousness shapes our reality. This seems difficult to accept for most, and it is quite understandable. In modern times, we are taught from an early age how to think rationally and tangibly. This is a very left-brain method of education, and it has more harmful effects than it's given credit for. The left brain deals with logic, details, facts, patterns, practicality, science, and math, as the right brain deals with feeling, intuition, symbols, images, risk-taking, philosophy, and religion. With a deliberate push for government-controlled educational curriculums, generation after generation of the youth are being taught to focus only on the facts, figures, and numbers. Repetition is used to train children subconsciously to accept what they're learning. Children aren't rewarded for questioning the validity of the information they receive. They are ridiculed. However, the children who blindly accept the information as true and merely regurgitate the information on command when it is time to take a test, those children go on to become the decision makers in our government, law, medicine, business, and every other occupation with power and prestige. The most detrimental effect of being pushed away from holistic thinking with the full brain into a strictly left brain thought is what is known as the suppression of the feminine. Every male and female have both feminine and masculine qualities. It has nothing to do with man or woman. These are represented by the left and right brain, yin and yang, black and white, light and dark, and most every other duality. Both are vital to our spiritual and physical health. In ancient Egypt, the female was the rightful heir to the throne. The male she chose to marry became pharaoh. This depicted the goddess tradition that has been destroyed to make way for a patriarchal, male-dominated society we see enforced in every major denomination. In suppressing the feminine of every society and pushing the people to strictly left-brain thinking, the natural ability for humanity to feel earthly, cosmic, and personal energy became lost.